Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
There is a specific kind of frustration that comes with watching a team that was built to be reliable consistently fail to be anything of the sort. It is different from the frustration of watching a bad team lose, because at least with a bad team, you understand the terms of the relationship. You know what you are getting. You can calibrate your expectations accordingly and find a way to make peace with the reality in front of you. What the Boston Red Sox are putting their fan base through right now is something altogether more maddening, and it is what we are going to spend today's video breaking down in full. Welcome to Red Sox Focus. To be clear about the argument being made here, when a team sits 5 games below 500 at any point in a 162-game season, there is rarely a shortage of things to criticize. The 2026 Red Sox have generated complaints from virtually every corner of the fan base, and most of them carry genuine merit. People are blaming roster construction. People are blaming ownership for its unwillingness to invest at the level this market demands. People are blaming the coaching staff for lineup decisions and in-game management that has, at various points this season, been genuinely difficult to defend. People are questioning the talent level on this roster and whether the front office overestimated what this group was capable of producing at the major league level. All of those conversations are valid. All of them deserve to be had. But beneath all of them, threading through every single complaint and every single loss and every single bewildering stretch of baseball, there is one overarching problem that supersedes the rest. That problem is consistency, or more precisely, the complete and total absence of it. This is not a new conversation for anyone who has followed this team closely over the past several years. The inability to string together sustained stretches of quality baseball has been a recurring theme throughout this era of Red Sox baseball, and if you go back through the previous 3 or 4 seasons, you can find video after video raising exactly this concern. But here is what makes the 2026 version of this problem so uniquely infuriating. In previous years, there were identifiable structural reasons for the inconsistency. The roster was too young. The team was too reliant on unproven players to fill critical roles. Free agency decisions had left obvious gaps that no amount of internal development could paper over. Injuries, which have hit this organization harder than most over the past few seasons, compounded every other weakness. Those explanations, frustrating as they were, at least provided a framework for understanding what was happening. This year is different. This year, the Red Sox made a deliberate, targeted effort to build a roster that would deliver consistency as its baseline characteristic, and the pitching staff is the clearest example of that philosophy in action. Sonny Gray was brought in specifically because of his track record of reliability. Over the past 6 seasons, his underlying numbers have remained remarkably stable. Even in a down year, Gray has been the kind of pitcher whose peripherals tell you exactly what you are getting. A veteran arm with elite spin rates, legitimate breaking ball depth, and the competitive intelligence to navigate lineups even when his best stuff is not present. You knew what Sonny Gray was before you signed him because he has been essentially the same pitcher for half a decade. Ranger Suárez carries a similar profile. Over his 4 seasons as a full-time starter, his numbers have been among the more consistent in the National League. He performed in big moments for Philadelphia. He has proven he is not rattled by high-stakes environments, and his ERA has stayed in a predictable range across very different team contexts. These are not volatile, high-ceiling, high-floor unknowns. These are known quantities. Pair those two with Garrett Crochet, who finished as a Cy Young Award runner-up and is by any honest accounting one of the 3 or 4 best pitchers in all of baseball, and supplement the group with a collection of younger arms who represent the variable elements of the equation, and you have a rotation that should be providing a stable foundation. The constants are there. The known quantities are in place. And yet, through fewer than 20 games, this rotation has lurched from one extreme to the other with no discernible middle ground. The first 9 games produced a rotation ERA of 4.71 and a matching FIP. The following 6 games were genuinely encouraging, with a 2.55 ERA suggesting that the staff was beginning to settle into a rhythm. And then came Minnesota, where Crochet delivered the worst start of his professional career. And Sonny Gray had one of the most difficult outings of his entire career, surrendering runs at a rate that bore no resemblance to anything in his established statistical history. You can rationalize individual bad starts. Every pitcher has them, and a single catastrophic outing does not define a season. Garrett Crochet is not going to surrender 10 runs on a regular basis. At least, no one who has watched him pitch with any regularity would expect that. But when your rotation cannot establish a floor, when every turn through the order carries the genuine possibility of either a dominant performance or a complete implosion with nothing predictable in between, that is a structural problem rather than a statistical anomaly. The rotation was supposed to be the stabilizing force for this roster. Right now, it is contributing to the volatility rather than dampening it. The defense presents its own version of this contradiction, and in some ways it is the most puzzling of all the inconsistency problems currently afflicting this team. On paper, and according to the metrics that most reliably measure defensive value, the Red Sox are a legitimately good defensive club. They rank in the top 6 in the major leagues in outs above average. They rank in the top 6 in fielding run value. The underlying numbers suggest a defense that is performing at a high level and contributing meaningfully to run prevention. And then you look at the error totals, and Boston sits with 14 errors on the season, which places them among the 4 worst defensive teams in baseball by that measure. A team cannot simultaneously be a top 6 defensive unit and a bottom 4 defensive unit, and yet that is precisely what the numbers are saying about the 2026 Red Sox. If that is not the textbook definition of inconsistency, it is difficult to know what is. There is, however, a specific and addressable reason for at least part of this defensive dysfunction, and it is the conversation that needs to be had openly, regardless of how uncomfortable it may be for those making roster decisions. Marcelo Mayer is one of the best young defensive players in the sport. His range, his hands, his arm, and his instincts at shortstop are the kind of attributes that define a franchise cornerstone at the most important defensive position on the infield. He is currently playing second base. Trevor Story, who is 33 years old and has looked every year of it in the field this season, is playing shortstop and carrying a -2 outs above average that ranks as one of the worst marks at the position in the entire league. This is not a subtle problem or a matter of reasonable disagreement about defensive metrics. Mayer at shortstop and Story at second base or some other configuration that gets Mayer onto the field at his natural position is the obvious corrective move. Whether the resistance to making that change is coming from the front office, from the coaching staff, or from Story's own veteran standing within the clubhouse, the current arrangement is actively costing this team outs and undermining the defensive infrastructure that was supposed to be one of this roster's genuine strengths. Caleb Durbin, meanwhile, profiles as a quality defensive second baseman and is currently stationed at third base. The infield alignment, as currently constructed, is placing the wrong players at the wrong positions, and the defensive inconsistency the Red Sox are experiencing is at least partially a direct consequence of that decision. The offense was never going to be the dominant force on this roster, and that was understood from the moment the offseason roster construction took shape. The organizational philosophy on offense was not to build a lineup that would outscore opponents through sheer power and run production. It was to build a lineup that would be disciplined, that would work counts, that would put the ball in play with regularity, and that would force opposing pitchers to throw pitches and navigate situations rather than simply overpowering the lineup with velocity. It is a legitimate offensive identity. Teams have won with it. But the execution of that philosophy requires consistency above all else, because a contact and patience approach only generates runs when it is applied with sustained discipline across an entire game and an entire lineup. What the Red Sox are producing offensively right now is the opposite of that. They scored 3 runs on opening day, acceptable, not alarming. Then came 3 consecutive games of nearly no offensive output, then a burst of run production across 2 games, then 2 runs, then a genuinely impressive multi-game stretch of 6+ runs per contest, then a shutout. The pattern, to the extent there is one, is that there is no pattern. Game to game, the Red Sox offense is unrecognizable from one version of itself to the next. There is no baseline. There is no floor that you can point to and say, at minimum, this lineup is going to do this. The approach changes, the aggression level changes, the patience at the plate changes, and the results swing wildly in every direction as a consequence. 12 strikeouts and 1 walk in a shutout loss is not just a bad offensive performance. It is a complete abandonment of the organizational philosophy that this offense was supposed to embody. What makes this all so difficult to process is the standings context. Despite everything described above, the rotational volatility, the defensive contradictions, the offensive unpredictability, the Boston Red Sox are still just 3 games out of first place in the American League East. The division has not pulled away from them. The opportunity to turn this season into something meaningful remains genuinely intact. But seizing that opportunity requires something this team has not yet demonstrated the capacity to produce, which is a sustained stretch of baseball where the rotation, the defense, and the offense are all operating within a recognizable range of their established capabilities on the same days, in the same games, over consecutive weeks rather than consecutive innings. The players on this roster do not appear to be operating from a shared understanding of what this team is supposed to be. The approaches in the batter's box differ dramatically from player to player and game to game. The rotation cannot find a repeatable level of performance. The defense is simultaneously excellent and error-prone depending on which metric you consult and which inning you are watching. It feels, at this early and still recoverable stage of the season, like a team searching for an identity it was supposed to already have. The roster was built to be consistent. The expectation was that the known quantities would establish the baseline and the younger players would develop around it. That has not happened, and until it does, everything else, the record, the standings, the individual performances, will continue to fluctuate in ways that make this team impossible to rely on and deeply frustrating to watch. Red Sox focus will keep covering every development as this season unfolds. Let us know in the comments what you think is the single biggest issue this team needs to address, and we will see you in the next one.
Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers, and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.